Welcome to Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters. Money on Tap is where we bring out the professionals, experience, and some fun in what we call three-dimensional investing. Utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning, that's what we do on this show. We look at all sides of the issues and bring a fully independent planning perspective to the table. My name is Seth Krussman.
And I'm Ben Brayshaw.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing this morning?
Fantastic. I was listening to a show the other day, and I think I said the same thing.
It's good to know that's consistency.
I need to find a new word. I like fantastic. Maybe I'll just stick with that. That's my thing. Hey, you can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. You can also find us at Facebook /3D Investing or Twitter, folks, BFG_LLC. Why would you want to find us there? Well, we do post our shows there. You can have a listen to some of the most recent, or you can even go back 102 shows and listen to
cutting edge development. Seth, hey, you're wearing a Money on Tap shirt today. I like that.
Well, thank you very much. This is one of my favorites.
It's good. Yeah. So, hey, if any listeners call in, connect with us. We'd be happy to, if we have some shirts on hand, give you one.
Today, we're going to spend some time talking about inflation and the retirement black hole.
I love inflation.
You do. You're a big fan of inflation.
Big fan of inflation.
You must be, because we sure talk a lot about it. And it's anytime we're sitting down doing planning and we're discussing future dollar values and how are those going to be reflected as buying power. That's really kind of a measure of the inflation. It's constant. It's consistent in everything that we're doing, paddling upstream, for lack of a better visual there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, when it comes to inflation, I mean, it's one of those things that we don't give enough credence to. People don't understand the significant impact, both good, bad, or indifferent, and how to address it and potentially pitfalls surrounding it. And I think we did a show, about 3 years ago on this, Seth? A little less than 3 years ago. And we get questions about it constantly and kind of updating people and giving people fresh information. I'm excited to kind of give more information today. I know we're going to review a lot of stuff too that was in our previous show, but I mean, creating some awareness and background with the people that haven't heard this story or conversation. So this is going to be an interesting show for a lot of people who are first time listeners, maybe, to this topic.
Yeah, and if you aren't going to dive into that, at least the name of the show is pretty cool, right?
I do. I like the name of the show, Seth.
I like black holes. They're amazing.
Into space, yep.
Unbelievable. Yeah. So anyways, we're going to get sidetracked a couple of different ways here. We'll go down some rabbit trails, but not quite yet. Before that, we want to bring to you Money in the News.
Well, today in Money in the News, we have 3 articles we were going to review. The first one, Seth, I was curious because when I saw it, I wanted to know if you partake in this. There is something called goat yoga, people. There's goat yoga. And that is the animal, the goat. It is something that is taking on a little bit of steam. It's stretching across the U.S. a little bit. There's 12 locations, but it started in Oregon. And I'm just wondering, Seth, if you're a goat yoga enthusiast.
Well, anytime that you bring out the word partake, I just have red flags going off everywhere. I'm like, run. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, no. That's not something that I've been following as of late, but this did show up on my radar. I've heard of it. I've heard of this goat yoga. Yeah, I've heard of it. I don't know where. It's a thing, but when I saw this article, I didn't even realize that it was native to Oregon. I don't know why I would have guessed anything less, but
seems fitting to me.
When I actually read and kind of dug into the article and learned a little bit about it, they were talking about some of the state law that they're struggling with, how to kind of domicile this entity so that it stays within the Oregon's guidelines for what's proper use or zoning.
No. We're not going to jump right to the state law, Seth. I'm not done here. Okay. So a woman, I lost her name here, but started posting pictures of herself doing yoga with or around her goat. I'm not sure exactly. It doesn't give a lot of clarity, nor have I been interested enough to have searched social media for a picture because that just seemed peculiar to me. But I'm really not interested in seeing it, but I think it's hilarious. But anyways, it got so much interest on social media that people started to embrace the idea of goat yoga. I don't know how this makes yoga any better. I'm still confused, or more difficult maybe. I have no idea. I don't know. I don't even want to go there. But now there's 12, I think there's 12 goat yoga places throughout the country.
Yeah. It's and hey, I'll just tell you, it's Lainey Morse. By the it's the first two words there in the article, Ben, if you're looking for her name.
Oh, sorry. God bless Lainey Morse, because I mean, this is a business plan that I don't think anyone had out there ever.
No, I mean,
I don't think she did either. Honestly, reading the article.
Right. I mean, it could kind of get encapsulated under like a therapy type of an activity, I guess, is one of the things that they were bringing this, is that it's there's a lot of stress. People have a great deal of stress that they're dealing with, and this is one of those ways that people have found to kind of connect with something cute. The first picture was, I think, a picture of her on Facebook with a baby goat, like doing downward dog, and a baby goat on her back. And, I mean, who doesn't love that? Who doesn't love that?
There's a lot of people in this world that are just saying to themselves, that is straight up strange. So,
well, it's strange enough to have, like you said, 12 locations. I think the closest one out there is going to be New York. Where was that one? Germantown, New York. Is that pretty close by?
No.
Okay. Well, or how about Averill Park, New York? How about that?
Nope, still distance enough that I'm not connected.
Okay.
Unable to go visit a class, Seth. Unable to go visit a class. So she said that she can make about $50,000 a year easily in her goat yoga classes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the problem is here that Oregon has zoned so much of its land for agricultural use that the primary driver for the revenue of that property needs to be traditional agricultural use.
Right.
And so she can't do this because this would be her primary income. And she doesn't slaughter, and she doesn't breed the goats.
Right.
I'm sure they're breeding on their own, but I mean, to start continue those different locations, she's going to need more goats. So they have to be bred somewhere. So, but anyway, she's now in some form of litigation / I don't know what, negotiation with the state of Oregon to get an exemption like other people have received in the past for Oregon being too rigid or stringent on the amount of land and the use of that land, Seth. I mean, you might know more about that, but
yeah, no, that's pretty much it. You got it.
Oh,
there's some regulations, and it didn't quite meet those. But I think that there has been the exemption made for some therapy animals. Horses were really what the illustration was using in Bend, Oregon, and certainly this could probably qualify. Yeah,
I love the last line of this article. To this, it's a quote from her. To this day, I'm pinching myself. She said, "I can't believe it happened."
Sure. Right.
Hey, God bless you. Wonderful. I'm glad you're making some money on this. But this is the craziest story. And of course, it's from Oregon, Seth.
Well, yeah. Going into the, people trying to find ways, I think, to really kind of connect reality for them. Because it can, I mean, we can be so disassociated with what's really going on in and around us with, social media is one, our work is another. And there's so much stress and pressure. So I'm glad that people are finding a way to, have some fun, have an experience that is different. Yeah,
silly. It sounds like it's fun and silly, and that's good. And I think that's great. So
yeah, I've seen people doing yoga on like stand-up paddle boards. Now that is incredible to me. Like, how could somebody actually balance? I mean, I'm just not me. I tried yoga. It's great, and it is so hard to do just on the land. How could you possibly even do that on a moving
That's got to
Doc.
be tremendously difficult. That's like a Karate Kid scene I've never heard.
Yeah. What next?
Oh, goodness gracious! All right, well we've got another one from Oregon, Seth. We got another Oregon article.
No,
round
no
two.
way.
Round two.
Okay.
You go because you found this one. This is all.
What
you.
else are we talking about? Is this? This is the. This is great. Yeah. So I was flipping through my phone and I saw that a state economist said that Californians were moving to the Oregon coast at higher rates than most other new arrivals, and I didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to it. I was like, well, that's interesting, and then like 2 days later, this article pops up that says, "Whoops." State economist corrects error, says Californians are no longer moving to Oregon coast at higher rates than most other new arrivals. And since 2013, the share of Californians moving to the coast is what you would expect, or lower. Lehner is who published this data, and that's given the size of the population. And I am a native here. If you're listening to us in Portland, that's where this information's coming. If you're in Boston or New England, you guys probably have this. I'll probably have a lot of. Well, you guys have a great state to live in. New Hampshire's great. We talked about top 10 states to retire with your fixed income. Oregon was not one of them last week, but New Hampshire was. But do you guys have a lot of people moving from Boston or York?
Yeah, we do have a lot of people that kind of have moved north, and migrated north, and that has affected our kind of our state and how our state leans both politically and how things are. So there's a lot of people who don't have a lot of appetite for kind of the northern movement of Massachusetts and Connecticut and so forth. So, but
that has probably been a story for as long as you can remember, since you're a native of New Hampshire, right?
Right. And it's funny. Seth, I don't know if you. So I was going through the articles. I was reading all the comments because the article's not that long. So I actually spent some time reading the comments underneath the article. And this one guy, I mean, there's stuff I can't even write on here because it's just, but it's he goes, I knew this article was a joke, blah blah blah, and then another guy goes, time for a new state economist. What else is he getting wrong? and then some lady starts talking about how the South is dismantling Oregon, but it really doesn't matter now. And then and it's just like, anyways. Somebody was looking for a job and said, I could be a better state economist. I mean, it was.
Well, there's a need. I'm sure they're taking applications.
But the article goes on to say that because of this supposed influx or whatever, that more people from Oregon are moving to Washington. So
true.
So that's interesting. I wonder how Washington feels about you guys coming up.
Vancouver's right across the river from Portland, and growing up in Portland, what we called Vancouver was Vantucky, and
Vantucky.
I think
that's horrible.
It is. It's bad. But Vancouver's amazing, and
if we were ever going to have clients from Kentucky, I think that you just ruined it.
What's that?
If we were going to ever have clients from Kentucky, Seth, I think you just ruined it.
Yeah, I don't think that's possible. So Vancouver is great, and actually there is a lot of people that move across there. For one, taxes. There's no income tax, but it's interesting that what's relative here is Californians are moving to Oregon for a better tax environment, and their money can go farther, so they can buy a bigger house. And that's kind of the story we talked about last week, is where can your dollar go farther for you? And then Oregonians are moving to Idaho and moving to southern Washington because our dollars can go farther there. It's just people, that's what's going on. And there's a greater population in California than there is in Oregon. I mean, Portland covers pretty much the majority of the population for Oregon. There's just tons of open space here.
I think this is all. I mean, what's happening is people are not. I'm kind of in the unusual. I think you are too. Growing up in a state and still living in the state, that's becoming less and less common. Though it's probably more common than people moving away, but it's the number of people who kind of reside back where they grew up is less. And I think that's just because of the amount of access, travel, and so forth that you can have with family, because family, despite all the breakdowns emotionally and whatever that happened with every family out there, you can still stay as connected as you really want to in this country pretty easily, where even still in some of the other countries you can't. And, I think that allows for people to drift and spread and start new routes elsewhere.
Good point. I'm going to say that too. It's kind of rare when I meet somebody that's actually from this area, born and raised in this area. But there are a lot of people that have strong family ties still, more deeply rooted where you are, I'd even say. I mean, that was kind of a fun conversation when we were, I almost said growing up, but when we were in college together, it's like, you're not part of the original 13.
When I met Seth and found out he was from Oregon, I was like, oh, yeah, you're not part of the original 13, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, what I say doesn't really matter here today, folks. I'm not part of the original 13. So,
one more article, and we're going to take a little bit of a serious turn, and there is a lot of buyer beware in the index fund articles coming out. The article from Russ Wiles, your portfolio is probably heavy on index funds. Now may be the time to make some changes. Now, this is really interesting because there are so many types of index funds. Matter of fact, you can buy the S&P 500 index fund from a variety of providers with a variety of focuses that may or may not be equal weighted in any one or all of the distinctions of the 11 sectors of the S&P 500. And you have no idea what you're buying. It could be leveraged. It could be, inversely leveraged on something else. And I mean, it just
hopefully you know that at least if you're buying it.
Right. And I mean, there's just so many different things out there that you don't have. And honestly, you can go onto a Vanguard or Fidelity and start buying stuff and say, oh, I want to put it in this index fund. You could buy the wrong one. I've met people who have bought the wrong index fund than what they thought they were buying. And so that could be a real problem. And I'm interested in how this article goes through on the tech sector. And we've talked about the FANG stocks, Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google. They throw Microsoft in there, so it's the FANMAG stock. So there's six stocks there. And, last year, first half of the year, those FANG stocks, I think it was they equated for almost 80% of all the returns in the S&P 500. And there's all these articles out there about this, and how the FANG stocks and technology, a lot of these have doubled, and there's all this movement. But there was a lot of slow progression of following by the rest of the marketplace. And so there's very unequally weighted performance issues going on in the market. And go ahead.
To give a little bit of perspective on how that's really even possible is that collectively those stocks, Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Microsoft, Apple, and Google Alphabet, are collectively worth $4.5 trillion. And that gives them, I mean, if you take a look at that, I mean, that's the weighting of them. So they're larger. So that gives them more weighting in the S&P 500 or other index funds. And so that's where they're not equally weighted. It's not like you're taking a, let's just give it a $1 billion and saying everybody's worth $1 billion in this fund. It's not that they're worth so much more than everybody else, but together they have more value than all but a couple global stock markets. So one of the questions is are the six companies worth more than the United Kingdom or German economies? Those are massive economies. And there's a lot more news around these. I mean, we're gonna have an opportunity down the road to have a conversation around these companies, and we don't want to give away that show, but we're going to bring you a show more about these companies in specific, and some of the news and what's happening in regulation or potentially coming down the road in regulation around these companies as well.
Yeah, I think just to touch on one thing here quickly. In 2000, when the stock market bubble busted,
bubble number
whatever it was, but the tech bubble busted. There was another type of FANG stocks out there, but they were different names. And some of these you'll remember: Microsoft, Cisco, Intel, IBM, AOL, Time Warner, Sun Microsystems. Some of these FANG stocks are in the bubble today. These FANG stocks, we don't know which ones. We don't know how this thing's all going to play out. We have no idea. And I think it's important to realize, there's a lot of gravity in the stock market. What must come up, what goes up must come down. And there's definitely movement to the stock market, and we don't know which ones these are. And so there's that piece. But then, Seth, there's the other caveat. Just the attraction of the index funds themselves and the constant amount of money flowing into those different funds forces just the value of the fund itself to rise sometimes. So you can just, the interest of buying index funds has grown so much. And the article actually goes into how much interest these have had since post 2008, that most of the investors who are in these index funds don't truly understand, nor did they realize or experience the crash of 2008 in the index funds of losing like 38% of their money.
Yeah.
That they're potentially or more.
I mean, that's not a peak to trough. That's just in a 1 year. That peak to trough was 50% in some of those. And I mean, and that's statistically, historically, what you can expect. And so some of the other stuff here that I thought was really interesting too is that in order for a couple of things. In order for these stocks to really keep doing what they're doing, they have such a narrow window that they're trying to hit is in terms of their projections. I mean, they have to execute at such a high level. And these are huge, huge companies. And traditionally, if you take a look back, historically in investing, companies of this magnitude are not growth stocks, right? Those were utilities. They're so. I mean, they were.
The world has changed, and people have forgotten. The late '90s, the market was booming. The tech stocks were flying high, and there was the Netflix of those days, and the Amazons, and the whatever it is that you're buying. And then we have clients who say, "Yeah, I own the index in my 401k, but I really want to own Apple." And we're like, "But you already have some exposure to Apple." I mean. So you're going to double down on your exposure to Apple. And not that I think Apple's a bad company, but at $202 a share, do I think it's going to go up? Well, I do think it's going to go up. Am I an analyst? I don't. I'm not an analyst. But do I own Apple? Yeah, I own Apple. But it's part of a portfolio that's balanced and well articulated inside the marketplace of how I'm going to own Apple and how much I'm going to allocate towards Apple. And you can be unequally weighted as you're younger, and you could probably say, hey, listen, I got 40 years ahead of myself before I retire, and I think Apple's a great bet. I think Amazon is too, or whatever your story is, and that's fine. And you can bet on a few of these and say, I'm going to ride it. And that's exactly what this article is all about, is it says, if you're going to buy indexes, understand whether it's foreign-based, whether it's a tech-based, whatever specific industry it's in, figure out whether it's equal-weighted or not equal-weighted. Find out exactly what you own. But be careful, because there is a lot of concern about a major tech bubble here, because we've seen so much massive growth in the tech side.
That's going to do it for us in Money in the News. You are listening to Money on Tap. We're going to come back with inflation, the black hole of retirement, or retirement's black hole. And what does that mean for you as an investor looking towards your future dollars and the value of those future dollars? How much can those buy you down the road? And we're going to get into, some really fun history here. So don't go away. We'll be right back. You're listening to Money on Tap.
Hi, my name is Seth Crustman, partner with Brayshaw Financial Group and one of the co-hosts of Money on Tap. One of the biggest concerns and largest expenses people face today is taxes. Without thoughtful planning, taxes can destroy future retirement dollars, eliminating the possibility of a timely retirement or dreams of what you want retirement to look like. If you're like most people, you're getting closer and closer to retirement, and you may be wondering if you're taking the right steps. Will my income be enough? Will rising taxes force me to give up my dreams? How does inflation factor into all of this? These are real concerns, and you're not alone. Putting a plan around your financial future is what we do. If you have questions when it comes to your financial security, and if you're looking for a personalized solution, contact us at Brayshaw Financial Group, 855-226-8551. It's time for you to start getting answers to your questions. Headquartered in Bedford, New Hampshire, Brayshaw Financial has offices across the country. We'd love the opportunity to show you how we can help. There's absolutely no cost or obligation to meet with us. Call us at 855-226-8551. 855-226-8551. 226 8551.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. We're talking about inflation, retirement's black hole. I love black holes. I don't know why. They're just incredible every time. I can't not watch a show on black holes. I don't know if you have something like that pops up for you, but I think they're incredible.
I don't have it's not a black hole thing, but I will tell you that every time I turn on the Discovery Channel and they have a stupid show on Alaska, I end up sitting there watching it for like 40 minutes, and I'm like, and it's just, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. So that might be my black hole of TV. So
or like Frontierman, or is that what you're talking about? I don't even know
the names of them, but Discovery's, when I turn on the TV, at least I'm glad Discovery's on. My kids probably put it there to make it seem like that's what they're watching. But anyway, so I don't even know the name of them.
Don't take a page out of the Brayshaw household there. So we are going to take a trip with you folks. This is going to be a little fun. We are going to take a trip down memory lane, and we're going to go into a time machine here back to 1980. We're going to talk about prices and welcome to Money on Tap 1980. We're going to talk a little bit about what's on the shelf, what are the prices in 1980, and hopefully this will give us some perspective as we fast forward into 2019, and you can get a little perspective on what has happened in that period of time. But yeah, go for it, Ben.
Yes, so 1980, we got some really interesting stuff here, because I think when we break out what 1980 looked like financially, and we look at what the costs are, fast forwarding into today, buying a house in 1980 was how much, Seth?
$68,714.
That's crazy. The average house. The average income in 1980 was $19,173.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
New car, $7,201, and average rent was $300 a month.
Tuition at Harvard, $5,300 per year. Not semester, per year.
Wow. Movie tickets were $2.25.
Gas actually seems a little high. I was actually surprised about that, but it's
we're also coming out of that gas crunch of the 70s too. I don't know if that had maybe a little bit of an effect there.
Yeah, because gasoline was $1.19 per gallon.
Yeah.
And so I remember when we were in college 20-some-odd years ago that we were in Virginia and we were paying under $1 at times.
69 cents a gallon.
I remember 69, 72, and that was like late 90s.
It was a good thing, too, because I was driving a 1970 Chevy Bel Air.
And that puppy was a gas guzzler.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
It needed to be that price where that car drank so much gas, it was as if you were driving from gas station to gas station. You weren't even visiting anybody.
No, yeah. That's all it was. You could how everybody gives you directions based off of Dunkin' Donuts in New England. It's, you could ask me where someplace was, and I could tell you it was, 2 miles past the Chevron station that's on that route.
And, a postage stamp back in 1980 was 15 cents. That's, these are some kind of whoa kind of numbers.
Yeah.
Now, what about food? I think food is probably the one thing that people can almost relate with very, very clearly.
Right. Because maybe I'm not having to pony up for a tuition at Harvard that year, but I probably am going to need to get some sugar or some milk at $2.02 per gallon.
I do not know what granulated sugar goes for 5 pounds, because I have not bought 5 pounds of sugar in my entire life, but that I can remember. But 85 cents was for 5 pounds of sugar. Coffee, though, everyone can relate with coffee, I think, in America on some level. So ground coffee was $2.50 a pound.
Yeah. Bacon was $1.40 a pound. I think I paid last time I looked at the cost per pound on the bacon I was buying. It was getting close to $4.25, $6. Some depends on I don't know, apple smoked, cured, thick cut, center cut, whatever bacon I was buying.
Eggs, 50 cents per dozen. Now, I don't know about you, but I mean, the price of eggs is all over the place. You got like $6 eggs, you got $2 eggs, you got $4,
$11 eggs.
I mean, it's ridiculous. This one's free ranged. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't think this one gets petted every day. I mean, come on.
I don't think when you go to Whole Food, I don't think there's a dozen eggs under $6.
This chicken never saw anything outside in its entire life, and it's like $40 an egg. I don't know. Eggs are the most crazy thing to me. I mean, having grown up on a farm, we had so many chickens. Like, we just went outside, we got some eggs. we made egg sandwiches every morning practically. So paying anything for eggs seems crazy to me. Fresh ground hamburger, 95 cents per pound.
Yeah.
Fresh
loaf of bread, 51 cents.
Fresh baked bread. I mean, fresh. We're not talking
fresh baked Wonder Bread.
Wonder Bread. Okay, so 51 cents a loaf. I think that's, Seth, you've got some great stuff here. You put together some of these pieces, but so for instance, if you were to take a new home that was $68,000 back in 1980, and you fast forward, you'd be over $200,000 at a 3% increase.
Right.
I mean, that's crazy. That's 3%. Now at 4%. I mean, you'd be, well over 225 or something like that. So, I mean,
you're talking about math. I'm not gonna go there.
Okay, but this is the best one, I think. This is a good one right here.
Right.
If we were to take Harvard, right, because college is out of control. I mean, everyone's out of. I have a daughter going to college. I'm still saying to myself, I can't believe how much college costs.
Right. And most of us are looking at Harvard, or our kids are, I'm sure.
Yeah, we're not looking at Harvard. But if I were to take Harvard and the $5,300 per year, fast forward that, it'd be about $16,000 a year in tuition today. Mm-hmm. Okay? Mm-hmm. At 3%.
At 3%, yeah. Seems reasonable. At 3%.
At 7%, it's over $60,000, which is right in line with what Harvard costs.
So true.
So, I mean, when you think about it, depending on where you're at, Harvard's between 65 and 75,000 or 68. Yeah. I don't know.
So something that's interesting there, folks, is that 7%. That 7% that just got articulated in that Harvard tuition. Just earmark that. I think it's going to come back around later on in the show. Okay, I'm not going to give it away. I just want you to pay attention to that number. It means something more than you probably might think.
Well, yeah, and I'm excited to hear about that, Seth. But I think this is crazy because we're being told that the cost of inflation in education is 6%, and Harvard, we're at 7%, and we're barely touching the cusp of its growth.
Right.
That's very, very scary, and it's just, I mean, it's ridiculous. So
yeah,
a new car probably is more. I mean, we did a 3% comparison. We did a 4% comparison. Uh-huh. And the thing about the car is that it was way closer at the 4% range for a new car. It was like pushing $30 some odd $1,000.
Yeah, like 33,000, I think, is where it's at. It's probably a little higher than that right now, maybe closer to 35.
I mean, just to actualize what's really going on, because we need to understand yesterday, to understand today, to understand tomorrow.
Yeah, I was going to say that was really, really interesting to me when I was, this is going back to probably 2007, and a buddy of mine was talking to me, and I run financial decisions by people that I trust, because I'm a human being, and I make decisions, buying decisions, maybe not with the better half of my brain. I mean, it can be emotional. And if you're in a car dealership and you've been sitting there for 5 hours, it gets a little different. It starts, you start thinking and behaving and acting in different ways. But anyways, I remember calling up a buddy of mine, and he said, okay, I want you to say this out loud, Seth. You're going to spend $36,000 on a Honda. And I was like, okay. So I said, I'm going to spend this is back in 2007. I'm going to spend $36,000 on a Honda. How's that feel?
Yeah.
I was like, no way. I can't do it. So I left the dealership.
It's true, though. I mean, we get numb to the numbers because everyone wants to break it down to a payment plan. I tell people all the time, I was just saying to my wife too, and I'm a succumber to this as well. I raise my hand like I'm guilty, but we get nickeled and dimed and feed to death.
Yeah.
I mean, it's $10 for this. It's $3 a month for that. It's, Netflix is $12 now. It's, I mean, no one's going to go out there and cancel. I was listening to CNBC. No one's going to go out there and cancel their, $12 Netflix account because it's breaking the bank. They're looking for bigger fish.
But I remember when it was like $8.
Right, exactly.
And that wasn't that long ago.
And then we've got Sirius XM, and I mean, you got Apple Music. I'm like saying to my daughter, I'm like, you're going to buy Apple Music. Then my son's like, well, I don't want Apple Music. I want something else or whatever it was. And I was like,
Swisher.
I have no idea. And I
don't either.
I was like, guys, listen, you need to seriously understand money, because if you're going to spend your money on this, you're going to be, $1 here, $1 there. A penny saved is a penny earned, and a lot of people have lost that perspective inside the monthly fee world that our culture is building up, that you just have to constantly be a subscriber. I need to be a subscriber. I mean, even the softwares out there that everything we have, you can't buy a software anymore. You have to be a subscriber. It's ridiculous. Yeah. And people don't know how to budget to begin with, so they're subscribing to all these things they don't know how to budget with. And they get locked in
What's
debt.
another $10? What's another $10? What's another $10?
Well, when you make the price so low, people don't cancel it because $10 is a couple Starbucks stops. And they're like, oh, well, I'll just not have coffee for 2 days a month. But they forget after a while, and then they go back to the 2 coffees a month, and now they're back at $20 a month.
Yeah, I'm not going to cancel that gym membership that I'm not using right now because it makes me feel good to have it, and I need to use it, and I'll feel more guilty if I cancel it than if.
One of the Planet Fitness, which has started over here in New England. I mean, they started with a low monthly fee because
it's like $9.
Yeah, but no one goes, and you're not going to cancel it because if you ever do want to go, you're like, well, it was $9. Maybe I'll go once a month, and people justify it that way. Make it too expensive. People say, I got to cancel it.
Yeah. So this is one of those rabbit trails that I was telling you about, folks. We just got off on, and we're going to bring it back. Actually, hey, before we move on to some of the other pieces here, I thought, since we're in the time machine or in the vault, you may remember some of these things that were going on while these prices were so low, or at the time. I'm sure everybody had the same conversation around the prices that 1980 that we're going to have currently. Which is, oh my gosh, I can't believe I pay that much for milk, or I'm not going to pay $40,000 for a Honda. But music was going on, right? Do you remember Another One Bites the Dust by Queen?
I do.
That was my favorite song as a kid.
That says a lot. That says a lot about you, Seth.
Yeah, that I have good taste in music. Come on. Let me see what else. Billy Joel. It's still rock and roll to me. Starting Over by John Lennon. Lady by Kenny Rogers.
Magic by Olivia Newton-John.
Yeah.
There's some interesting stuff going on in 1980.
Yeah. The Shining. Empire Strikes Back.
The Blues Brothers, Caddyshack.
Gosh.
Ordinary People. I mean, these are major movies of that day. There's a lot of
those were the days.
The 80s were good years. The 80s were good years.
I'm so happy to be back in 1980 right now with you, Ben, because we didn't know each other then, but it's so nice to know you now in 1980 again.
I want to turn my collar up. I want to stand my collar straight up. So go back to the 80s. My kids are dressing up with the 80s for some event or whatever it was, some school thing, and it was pretty hilarious. They were asking how to dress. I was helping them. That's sad.
Mm-hmm. What's really sad is that you've still got some of those clothes.
I do.
So I think that's going to do it for that segment, folks. You know what? We are going to take a quick break, and we're going to fast forward into 2019. We're going to be talking about inflation and the value of your dollar. How do you face this headwind, the black hole that is inflation with your dollars and your investing? Yeah, you're listening to Money on Tap. We'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Ben Brayshaw, one of the co-hosts of Money on Tap. If you have questions when it comes to your retirement and are looking for a personalized solution, contact us at Brayshaw Financial Group. In today's volatile stock market, we can help you plan to find your successful retirement solution. Am I saving enough? Am I saving into the right places? Do my investments match my appetite for risk? Do I have a tax strategy that is going to help me keep more of what I earn? How can I maximize my Social Security income? If you are like most people, you are getting closer and closer to your retirement and may be wondering if you're taking the right steps. If you're in retirement, you may be wondering, am I maximizing my income while preserving my estate and caring for my family? We talk about all things financial in what we call three-dimensional investing, putting a plan around your financial future. If you feel that now is the time to start getting the answers to some of these questions for your own situation, give us a call at Brayshaw Financial Group at 855-226-8551. Headquartered in Bedford, New Hampshire, we have offices throughout New England and across the country. We would love the opportunity to show you how we can help. There is absolutely no cost or obligation just to meet with us, and we welcome you to our office. Call us at 855-226-8551.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters, where we bring out the professionals' experience and some fun in what we call three-dimensional investing. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. We are talking about inflation.
Seth, I want to ask you a question, Seth. Do you ever feel like the government's lying to you?
Never.
Okay, just checking.
That was a lie. So inflation, folks, what is inflation? How is it measured? How does it affect you? We kind of took a look back into 1980 to give you an idea of what was the price back then. If you remember some of those things that we were discussing, and in terms of the value of that dollar at that point, you were buying a house for under $70,000. And today, I was just talking to Kira about this. I think it's averages around $375, somewhere around there. And that's what we're talking about. And unless the income that you're receiving is keeping up with that inflation, your dollars aren't going. I mean, you're behind. Ultimately, you are really having to struggle to keep up with, doing things that people, frankly, consider kind of that the reality of owning property or owning a house should be kind of available for most of us. And I think that's kind of a different discussion for a later time. But what are some of the things that are happening behind the scenes to measure or create this inflation?
Inflation is one of those things that, how it's measured, where it's measured, who measures it, is a constant moving target. I wish we could just say, hey, this is what the inflation rate is. If you were to ask the government what the inflation rate is, they would come up with about between 1.5% and 2%. I think they'd say about 1.6% is inflation rate. I think we know by what we did in our visit to 1980 that inflation is way over the 1.6 they have, and understanding why the government wants inflation low and why that is important is because of how they pay out to all the different, programs that we have as a country, from food stamps to Medicaid to anything. And those inflation rates are buried in there. So keeping the inflation down keeps the cost of how they inflate the numbers of how much money goes out in that area. But we all know that the cost of living is rising more than 1.6%. And the government always refers to the CPI, right, Seth? Mm-hmm. I mean, they're always calling, hey, listen, that the CPI is, at 1.6, and that's the rate of inflation we're going to use. But a lot of people don't understand what the CPI is, how it works, how it's calculated, what it's really measuring. Right. I mean, that's the issue. People say, well, where's this 1.6 guy? And they say, well, we can't tell you everything. That was something we were laughing about earlier. Yeah. They won't tell you because they're like, well, we don't want people to know how we're comparing prices and so forth and whatnot. But everyone knows what everyone else is charging for phones. I mean, Apple can walk into a store and see what Samsung's charging. There's no misunderstanding here.
what you're hitting on there is kind of the, what's the secret sauce of the CPI, and if they're saying that it's under 2%, but we're looking at these prices around us and going, no, it isn't. So, well, the why would the government have any kind of why would they want to keep that number so low? Well, it's built into a lot of those entitlement programs. It's built into the school lunches that are being provided. It's built into the healthcare. It's built into that's being provided by government programs and being subsidized. So of course they want to keep their dollars low. But what their reasoning is around this is we were talking about the iPhone. Ben was talking about the iPhone. Is if you have an iPhone and you buy an iPhone and the price of the iPhone goes up, what they're saying is behind that, if you can't afford the iPhone, you're going to go to the flip phone. So you will have phone, but it's going to be, it's not going to be, I don't know, it's not going to be the Cracker Barrel cheese. It's going to be government cheese.
And this was the definition. One of the things I found was on the CPI. The CPI is not a measurement of rising prices. Rather, it tracks consumer spending patterns that change as prices change. The CPI doesn't even touch the falling value of money. If it did, the CPI would look much different. The CPI is looking at how we change our habits each year to survive on the income we make. That I think is probably the easiest way. It's not a 100% accurate way to describe it, but if you can't afford something, if you can't afford, filet mignon, you're going to buy a steak. If you can't afford a steak, you might buy hamburger meat. If you can't afford hamburger meat, you may be buying ramen noodles.
So why would you not be able to buy what you used to be able to buy? And that's where that relationship between inflation, true inflation, is not a real true correlation to the CPI, because what you are making or your income is not keeping up with the actual rate of what those goods and services are inflating at.
Right, exactly. And I think when we ran the numbers on everything from 1980 to now, not one of them was at 1.6 or 2 or 2.5%. We were running at 3, trying to make the numbers work. And so if you want to stay at the same pace of living, that's 3%. If you want to survive, which is kind of how I see the CPI as the survival rate, to still accomplish life, it's 1.6.
Yeah. Something interesting also that you touched on there, Ben, was the CPI calculation. They will we'll just use they will not release what is the secret sauce or how they calculate the CPI. It's a moving target because they say again it is because of the consumer buying habits and how people are changing their buying habits. But what they have given us, or what they've said, is that it's because they don't want companies measuring against companies what their prices are. So they don't want to release what the price of an iPhone is to Samsung, and it's like that just doesn't make sense, folks. I mean, that's kind of where we come back to.
There's no competitive advantage in releasing this information at all, but there is a strategic advantage, and it's to manipulate our budget. It's to manipulate our entire debt scenario that's moving forward. There's a manipulation here, good, bad, or indifferent. I mean, that's when we start moving into the dollar and the printing of the dollar. I think that's where you were going with this, Seth. Was the Fed is if inflation's 1.6, well, the Fed has been printing money between 4 and 6% on monetary inflation annually, which is why inflation is continuing to get compounded at astronomical rates.
Yeah. If you take a look at the measure that's typically used here in this understanding of what the monies that are out there available for use is called M2. It's a calculation of money supply that includes elements of what's called M1 as well as near money. And near money refers to savings, deposits, money market securities, mutual funds, other time deposits. These assets are less liquid than M1 and really not suitable as like exchange mediums, but they can quickly be converted into cash or checking deposits. So what is all that? Why would we take a look at this, and what are we looking at in terms of the cash or the money that's in supply currently? And if you were to take a look at 5 years, let's go back to 2014. Roughly, it's 11,000 would be the number that we're going to look at, and then 14.8 is the current number of that M2. And if you average that out for the last 5 years, the number that you come up with is 7%. Isn't that interesting, folks? Where did we talk about 7% before, Ben?
In the cost of education.
Yeah. Which education?
Harvard.
Are they intelligent folks there at that university?
We would hope so.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting that they're at 7% and the numbers here reflect 7%? I mean, I find that fascinating.
Well, there's a correlation. I mean, for every 7% we grow that, that threshold of we're decreasing our value of our assets by 7.
Right.
And I think people don't realize that, every dollar basically is going down by 7% essentially each and every year. I mean, I don't care what someone says, how they look at it. I mean, that's how you need to see it. And the point of this whole concept, the retirement black hole, where is that hole? That hole is in inflation. And if you don't understand inflation, the one thing that the good chunk of America is getting burned on is the pensions. We've talked about pensions and the viability pension, but let's say there's no problem with your pension and you just get your $1,000 a month pension. Well, in 20 or 30 years in your retirement, that $1,000 spending is not going to be anywhere near worth what $1,000 is today. We all know that mechanically in our heads, but we don't understand that literally on paper. And that's one of the things that a lot of planning is missing, is that black hole. Yeah. Understanding how to combat that, how to utilize that, how to layer investments so that you can create income at different times for staging against inflation. And those are things that every planner should be doing. If you're not addressing those things, if you're like, oh, well, I'm making enough income today from all of my investments to cover all of my wants and all of my needs, then you're going to be in trouble in 20 years. And you're going to be making some hardcore decisions. And I've met people, I've worked with people who don't want to listen to that kind of stuff. And we try to help them. We try to minimize that issue. And we've seen them suffer at times. We've seen them say, no, you're getting the same income. We got you exactly what you wanted. But now you need more. And this is what I was talking about. And I think one reason we wanted to do this show and kind of redo the show, Seth, is when I was younger, 15 years ago, when we started the company, or whatever it is now, 16, 17, 18, I was easier to push over as a planner. I was like, okay, well, maybe, but now that I have lived it with clients, I've experienced it with people, I want to protect everyone else from making mistakes. When you're younger, you let people direct how your business should be a little bit, and we know that we don't want that to happen to people. So
yeah, I want to bring that this concept into a planning perspective here for folks as well, where if you are looking at your plan and you are growing your underlying investments, and whatever your growth rate is, it's what it is. But you have to account for this. You have to account for the inflation. And I mean, maybe 7% is a realistic number to look at the inflation numbers. Most of the time I see planning done, it's more around that inflation is articulated more around that 1.5-2%. I think we try to bring that balance into perspective here, folks, and try to have this conversation in a way that helps understand the reality around these numbers. And as well, there's other numbers that we're taking a look at and considering as well, which is maybe a tax squeeze, because we are in a very, very, very low tax environment currently. And what the future looks like when we have to be paying for these cost of living expenses and the increase in this inflation through a lot of these entitlement programs, another discussion, but it's part of planning. It's part of taking a look at you and your future and the expectation around that, and how to create what it is that you truly want and desire in the future. I think that's going to do it for us here at Money on Tap. We've had a good time talking about all sorts of aspects around inflation.
Yeah, I thought it was a great show. Thanks, Seth.
Hey, Ben, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. And if you're listening to us today for the first time, welcome. We're glad that you were able to catch a couple of minutes with us, or however long the time was. And we welcome you back. And also, please, and thank you for reaching out to us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. That's going to do it for us today. Have a great week, folks.
The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of this radio station and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risks, including loss of principal invested. No strategy, product, material, or tool mentioned can assure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information, products, materials, or tools mentioned should be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. This show may be subsidized in whole or in part by a product sponsor or issuer. Securities and advisory services offered through SagePoint Financial Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC, and a registered investment advisor. All other services offered through Brayshaw Financial Group LLC are independent of SagePoint Financial. SagePoint Financial and Brayshaw Financial Group do not provide tax or legal advice. Main office is located at 116 South River Road, Bedford, New Hampshire, 03110, and can be reached at toll-free 855-226-8551.